Festivus memes and jokes for the rest of us is. It's that time of year again, folks. The Festivus for the rest of us is finally here, and honestly it couldn't have come at a better time. Because 2017 was a train wreck of a year, and I think everyone is ready to air their grievances loud and proud. Not think, actually based on these amazing Festivus memes and jokes. I know the people of the world were probably looking more forward to Festivus than that other holiday that might fall just 2 days later. For those of you who aren't already well versed in the ways of Festivus, I'll give you a little background. While Seinfeld might have brought the concept of Festivus to the masses, it was actually based on a holiday Seinfeld writer Dan O'Keefe's father invented in his own childhood. With a few tweaks and some creative liberties by O'Keefe, the new tradition of Festivus was shared in an episode of Seinfeld called The Strike. And this version of the holiday is the one many people celebrate today. Now, Festivus followers can celebrate the great day on December 23rd by following certain, easy-to-follow steps, as laid out by the inimitable Frank Costanza, father of George Costanza and friend to Cosmo Kramer, on Seinfeld. Get yourself a Festivus pole with a good strength-to-weight ratio, preferably made of aluminum. Do not decorate this pole, as it is meant to be enjoyed in its unadorned natural state. Sure, you can buy a Festivus pole if you like. But Festivus is all about defeating the commercialism of the holidays. You're better off just finding any old aluminum pole. Festivus dinner. Don't feel like making a big feast for the holiday? Great, because the traditional Festivus feast consists of meatloaf on a bed of lettuce. If meatloaf feels a little too strenuous for you, just put together some sort of meatloaf-shaped food a la Stella Costanza. Bingo, bango, you're done. And if you're worried about what to do at the Festivus dinner, Frank Costanza has a great evening planned out for you. Probably my favorite part of Festivus. The airing of grievances. Gathering your loved ones around the Festivus dinner table, gleaming aluminum pole lighting your way, to tell them everything they do that makes you nuts. If you've been invited to a friend's house for dinner tonight, and you know you've done something to irk them, you might want to get ready for this. This year is actually a particularly special year for the Festivus tradition. It's been 20 years since the world was introduced to this wonderful holiday, and many people think the United States has finally found the perfect representative for Festivus. President Donald Trump, a man who loves to air his grievances, as noted by CNN. Although I assume his Festivus pole would be made of solid gold. Still, finding such a perfectly appropriate mascot for the holiday 20 years after its inception is a Festivus miracle. Festivus, the holiday for the rest of us. Explained. Every holiday season, jokes about airing your grievances and feats of strength pop up, but unless you've seen a certain episode of Seinfeld, you probably have no idea what is going on. Well, December 23rd is Festivus, the festival for the rest of us, and what originally started as a family in joke has hopped from a beloved sitcom to a form of consumer rebellion. Festivus is all about family and friends. Sometimes too much about them. Here is the short version of how Festivus came to be. You can read our complete oral history of it here. Festivus started as a family tradition with Seinfeld writer Dan O'Keefe. O'Keefe has related, over the years, that his father had little patience for the commercialism or religiousness of the traditional holidays. In part, the O'Keefe patriarch seems to have been inspired by Samuel Beckett, and in part to troll his kids. The O'Keefe Festivus had symbols and props which we aren't in the Seinfeld version of the holiday. For example, one of the main symbols of the holiday was a clock and a bag, and sometimes a clock in a bag. The significance of the bag and the clock was unknown. Apparently, when the O'Keefe siblings would ask about the meaning, Daniel O'Keefe Sr. would simply reply, "That's not for you to know." How mysterious. There were no costumes for Festivus, however, hats were often worn. Some of the favorites were a Viking helmet with Play-Doh horns affixed, a brimless Cub Scout cap including tin-foil adornments, or a pointy dunce cap. These were typical accoutrements manufactured by a gang of creative youths. And yes, Seinfeld fans, there was the airing of the grievances and feats of strength. O'Keefe originally didn't want it on Seinfeld. However, it turns out that one of his brothers let the family tradition slip, and Seinfeld himself had to campaign to get O'Keefe to write it into the series. When he did, elements were changed and added, like the completely unadorned Festivus pole, to amp up the anti-consumerism tone, and it aired in the episode The Strike in 1997. Something about Festivus struck a chord. The holiday is just one aspect of the episode, but it's one that has stood out over the years. 7 years after it aired, O'Keefe put out a book about it, and in 2012, marketing professor Ilona Mikkonen noted that Festivus had become part of the product resistance against aspects of the winter holidays. In contrast to dominant Christmas ideology, Festivus promotes a grand narrative of meaningful nothingness, wherein Festivus celebration is presented a viable means of circumventing the oppressiveness of Christmas i.e. meaningful through erasing the higher goals and conventions. If Christmas i.e. nothingness. Mikkonen doesn't say outright that Festivus is intentionally a holiday about nothing. But the spirit is there. Indeed, Festivus has been a form of protest for years. An atheist protested nativity scenes on display in Florida by, successfully, going to court for the right to build a Festivus pole out of beer cans next to a nativity scene. In 2015, a gay man created a Pride Festivus pole for the same reason. He topped it with a disco ball. That, in a nutshell, is Festivus. It's a holiday without the holiday, but the irony is, stripping away the presence and religious belief of the winter solstice seems to really make people happy. The ultimate point of Festivus is that perhaps we don't need an excuse to come together, or if we do, any excuse will do. Just make sure to get your donations into the Human Fund before you go. The real-world science behind the out-of-whack seasons in Game of Thrones.